Well, JR, I asked the question kind of going into the break. How long before we find out if the Fords and if the Toyotas are in better shape with this new car than they were a year ago?
Well, here's one thing I like about it, Brett, is I think we lost it over the years. We lost, I think, some of the brand identity, and it's coming back. I like when people start talking about groups of Fords, groups of Chevys, and groups of Toyotas. That brand identity is very good for the sport, and I feel we lost it with the car of tomorrow, and it is coming back. But let's remember, last year, everybody was, what was wrong with the Fords? Well, we don't have a good body. Well, we're going to get a body next year. But then again, look at what happened. A Ford took the championship, okay? So you have to look at it and say, hey, is this a disadvantage? Were they at a disadvantage? And now with this new body, are they going to do better than they did before? But let's remember what the teams are behind these manufacturers. The Toyota is, of course, led by the Joe Gibbs Racing Group, and then the Fords, your Roush Fenways and your guys that are out there, the Penske guys who, again, got that championship, that it was not necessarily, I don't think it's hard to say it was a down year for Ford altogether. It was throughout the regular season, but then they're the ones that are talking about the championship. So I'm interested to see what changes it makes, but I do like the fact that this playing field is so level, and I think it's kudos to NASCAR for the way they have these cars set up to where you can have a down year like Ford did, yet one of their drivers still gets a championship.
Jeff?
Interesting thought process there, my friend. I agree with part of it, and part of it I'm not so warm and fuzzy about, because I think you need to understand when we talk about Toyota, let's not leave this off the table, and that is Toyota is going to wind up having more cars than ever before under their sombrero. They just
good
added
point.
Legacy.
It could be big, Jeff. That could be really big.
Yes, it really could be, especially at a place like Daytona and even maybe at Atlanta the following week. When you talk about what we're going to be looking at, a lot of the teams that complained the most was not so much complaining about maybe the super speedway stuff, but more for the short tracks. And we're not going to get an opportunity to really get an assessment of that until we wind up racing Bristol here. You got to remember, Bristol this year is on the concrete, not on the dirt. So I look for us to see what we're going to get out of Bristol, as well as racing at COTA early in the year. These first three races are really fast races. Atlanta is definitely just a smaller version of Daytona and Talladega, and Las Vegas is not what you call a slouch when it comes to racing on a mile and a half. They carry all the mail around there pretty good too. So we may have to be a little bit patient before we jump to too many assumptions. I think really what I'm looking at is who's got their homework done early on. Just like, can we draw anything from Los Angeles when it comes to Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing? I mean, I thought we had a pretty balanced area, situation there. And what's going on with Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing? Are they showing the fact that maybe they're ready to get going again this year? A little bit like they, flexed their muscle a year ago.
I mean, that's the thing when you start talking about it. That's what we begin to wonder. I mean, last year Toyota won the race at Los Angeles. Yep. Martin Truex Jr.
Right,
and then they kind of fell off for a little while. But they kind of bounced back. But like you guys said, Ford ends up winning the championship, but they said all year long they didn't have the speed they needed. So we're going to find out. They always have the speed, though, John, at it used to be the restrictor plate at the super speedways. They always seem to have the speed there. They draft well. They work well together. So I tend to agree with what Jeff's saying. I think it's going to be probably at least Bristol or COTA, or even after, before we really find out what they have with these new bodies.
Well, one thing I really like about this, Brett, and I think the three of us, I can speak for us saying that we're fans of all sports, all three of us,
right.
But we're definitely biased towards one, the NASCAR, because NASCAR, every time you go to the football field, it's 100 yards. Every time you go to the baseball diamond, it's 90 feet to first base, 60 feet 6 inches to the plate. That's all the same. NASCAR throws everything at these competitors right off the bat. Okay, you got to be ready to race race on the superspeedway at Daytona. Then you go to Atlanta, that's the mini superspeedway. Then right away you're on a short track. Right away you're on a road course. Something gets thrown at these teams every time. I think that gives us a wonderful idea right off the bat as to who's doing what. Now, we do always have to remember, no matter what sport it is, that things are magnified at the beginning of the season, right? Because there hadn't been that many races. You win one race, you're a winner at the beginning of the season. You win one race at the middle of the season, you might be lagging behind because there's been that many races that are out there. But that's one of the things that I like about this, is it will get these answers so early because of the variety of racetracks that get thrown at these competitors.
How much, Jeff, can these teams learn about this new body style between the wind tunnel and all the research they do that they put into the simulators?
You can say it's a lot, but the variable that we still cannot plug into those simulations and all the things you can throw at it is how will it be when it comes time to crunch time? With the way the aerodynamics work, you bring up wind tunnel. The wind tunnel information that's available is the one that they get from NASCAR through the manufacturers, under their watchful eye. And I'm talking about NASCAR. Yeah, you're putting a new nose in there, so you're going to get some numbers. But, how real are the numbers once you get on the racetrack? How much of a variable has Goodyear thrown in here? Did they make any adjustments with the tires? How about the track itself? Has it gotten older? Does it have more grip or less grip? What time of the day are we racing early in the season? There's so many variables. And the other variable that we haven't really touched on is that now when you go to Stewart-Haas, guess what? Kevin Harvick's not there. You got Josh Berry in the 4. We have some, different players working with different crew chiefs and different engineers. I even heard Denny Hamlin say, even though he won at the LA Coliseum, he had new team members. He had new engineers. How is this going to factor in? And here's the one caveat when I bring up Denny's name. If there's anybody who's got to be licking his chops when it comes to Daytona, it's Denny Hamlin. That rascal, he is basically, he's turned into the Pied Piper and runs well no matter what year it is. He goes to Daytona. He's always a guy you got to look to, and you're looking for if you're winding up being back in the pack and you see Denny Hamlin coming up through what he's doing. Yeah. You want to get a piece of that. I want to go wherever Denny goes because he's probably going to be in that top 5 on that final lap looking for an opportunity to win or to go for the win at least.
Yep. It's interesting whenever you talk about that and look at these guys and find your friends. Thing is, does he have any friends anymore?
Well, the thing is, he would be my friend at least for the moment. I mean, that's the way during the day, and I think everybody here can agree to this. When you saw Dale Earnhardt coming up through the field, what did you want to do? You wanted to get a piece of that back bumper if you could and go with him, because if you want to wind up and be in a position of finishing inside the top 5 and making a run at winning a race, whether it's Talladega, especially Daytona, you go for the 3. And I think that's the way Denny is right now. I don't want to make him an enemy. I don't want to block him. I want to get with him. I want to dance with him. I want to be his partner.
Yeah, Jeff, I don't care right now if I really, really dislike you and you really, really dislike me and we don't get along at all. If our cars are working well together in the draft, I think we forget that really quickly.
I think I could like you for about 4 or 5 laps. Yeah. What do you think?
That's all. Hey, I think we could put aside all our differences, Jeff, which we don't really have any.
Exactly.
Until
we'd put
turn
beside.
3 of the last lap.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. Hey.